The Great River Road Museum in Darrow, Louisiana, aims to offer an honest retelling of turbulent times in the state. The federally funded museum traces the history of estates that populated the River Road from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. I'm taking you on a tour of its vast collection tied to the realities of a different time. Homa's House in Darrow, Louisiana, prospered as the largest sugarcane plantation in the South under the ownership of John Burnside, known as the Sugar Prince. The estate doesn't sugarcoat how its fortunes were made, as well as those of its neighbors along the River Road. The narrative unfolds next door at the Great River Road Museum.
We have about 20,000 square feet of exhibit space here, showing and focusing on the Great River Road, pretty much from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. And the rich soil on each side of the river created the greatest empires of the sugarcane farmers and that sugar industry which built Louisiana.
My guide is Jim Blanchard, an artist and historian. A large map of the River Road's plantations puts the exhibit in context.
When you see a lot of these properties on here, you'll find out that a lot of them were actually owned by different races. You have, freed blacks who actually owned plantations and owned slaves and were part of society.
From the map, you can walk through exhibits of photos and facts chronicling more than 600 homes along this stretch of the River Road, most of which no longer exist.
What we try to do is do small bullets of information and timelines, and information about who owned it, its chain of title, and things that happened in those areas.
The museum doesn't shy away from the historical fact that people owned people on the River Road properties that prospered, growing sugar, indigo, tobacco, and cotton. The Africans in Louisiana exhibit shows all sides of the story.
We see right when we walk in a slave auction.
Yeah, slave auctions were very popular at that time, mostly in New Orleans and Baton Rouge. A lot of people don't realize that in Louisiana, an African could own property, own slaves, and live in big plantation houses and crops, and they were part of society. Here we have something that scares some people, but it's one of the grand wizards of the KKK, his outfit. We were not going to show it because we thought it was a little too much. But then we discovered that the Henry Ford Museum, the Smithsonian, and many others all have theirs on exhibit. So we have it here to tell how bad of a story that was.
The museum traces Louisiana's origins from its earliest settlers, including the Homas Indians who once inhabited this site, to the death mask of Napoleon Bonaparte III, who sold Louisiana to the United States.
Here we have 3 of the journals for the first explorers with the native Louisiana Indians.
A vast collection of artifacts and relics from the Civil War and the South's secession are on loan from private collections.
These are the first time they've ever been shown. This is the first time this flag has been unfurled and mounted to be seen. It's quite a collection. We have some artifacts here about the battles of New Orleans, the Civil War.
Throughout the museum, you'll find a cast of Louisiana characters cast in wax, from Civil War generals to infamous politicians.
These figures were all in the museum, the Wax Museum in New Orleans. The Wax Museum closed down and the building was repurposed. So we acquired all the figures and we've restored them, and we're putting them back in to tell the stories of Louisiana.
This is how history will remember Governor Edwin Edwards, and this is how
exactly,
history will
yes.
remember Huey P. Long.
The governor lived right down the road. Right before he passed away, he came here and spent the day with his wife and his son, and he posed with this. And oh my God, it was quite a moment.
We pause to listen to a restored pipe organ. The early Wicks Theater organ was originally housed in the Lyric Theater in New Orleans.
So one of your newest exhibits is a pipe collection.
Our new exhibit, it's a local collector. The collection is over 5,000 pipes. Wow. Ranging from, 50 years ago to 1,000 years ago.
From Mardi Gras costumes to nostalgic items, the museum also serves as a love letter to Louisiana. It's funded by a federal Department of Transportation grant as part of the National Byways program to introduce people to the roads and the bayous and rivers of Louisiana. The owner of Homa's house put up a 20% match and donated the land to build the museum.
A lot of museums, when you go into them, you feel intimidated that they're so, don't look at that, don't touch that, we don't want to be that way.